Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Asmaul Husna. I'm from Group 7. Our group will presentation about analyzing and interpreting quantitative data. As the first speaker, I will explain about analyzing and interpreting data. So, data analysis and interpreting is the process of assigning meaning to the collected information and determining the conclusion, significance, and implication of the findings. So, the first is steps. Steps in the process of quantitative data analysis. The first is preparing the data for analysis, menyiapkan data untuk dianalisis. The second is conducting the data analysis, melakukan data analisis. Yang ketiga, reporting the results, melaporkan hasil dari data analisis. Dan yang terakhir adalah interpreting the results, menginterpretasikan hasil dari data analysis. So the first we have preparing the data for analysis. There is score data. Scoring data means that the researchers assigns a numeric score or value to each response category for each questions on the instrument used to code data. So the second, create a code book using information from instrument when possible. Score data berarti peneliti memberikan skor numerik atau nilai untuk setiap kategori tanggapan untuk setiap pertanyaan pada instrumen yang digunakan untuk mengumpulkan data. Cara kedua dalam membuat codebook menggunakan informasi yang ada pada instrumen yang digunakan jika memungkinkan. So the next is determine types of scores to analysis. Before conducting an analysis of scores, researchers consider what type of scores to use from their instruments. This is important because the type of scores will affect how you enter data into a computer file for analysis. There is 3 points. The first is single item scores. A single item scores is an individual score assigned to each question for each participant in your study. These scores provide a detailed analysis of each person's response to each question on an instrument. The second point is sum score. Sum scores are the scores of an individual added over several questions that measure the same variable. So the last is difference scores. Difference scores are scores in a quantitative study that represents a difference or change for each individual. Sebelum melakukan analisis skor, peneliti mempertimbangkan jenis skor apa yang digunakan untuk instrumen mereka. Hal ini sangat penting karena jenis skor akan mempengaruhi cara kita memasukkan data ke dalam file komputer untuk dianalisis nantinya. Ada 3 jenis seperti yang saya sebutkan tadi, single item scores, summary scores, and difference scores. So the next step is selecting a statistical program. After scoring the data, the next is select a statistical program. Researchers select a computer program to analyze their data. Academic researchers generally use statistical programs available as software programs for desktops or laptop or available on campus computers. The hardest part is deciding which software package to use. Jadi setelah penilaian data, peneliti akan memilih program komputer untuk menganalisis data mereka. Statistical package for social science adalah yang paling populer digunakan. Sementara itu, there is other programs Minitab, GMP, SYSTAT, and SIS. Next step is clean an account for missing data. The first is identify scores outside of the accepted range. Second is assess the database for missing data and determine how to handle. The next step is conducting descriptive analysis. There is 3 conducting descriptive analysis that we can choose. The first is measures of central tendency, value or score that represents the entire distribution. The first is mean, typically called the average. Second is median, the value or score that divides top half of a distribution from the bottom half. The third is mode, the value or score that occurs most often. Second is measures of variability, describe the spread of the scores. First is range, the difference between the highest and the lowest scores. Second is standard deviations, the standard distance the scores are away from the mean. And the last is measure of relative standing. There is percentile ranks, the percentage of participants in the distribution with scores at or below our particular scores. Third is calculate scores, enables a researcher to compare scores from different scales. And the last is z-scores, a popular form of the standard scores, has mean 1 of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. So the next material will explain from another member from our group.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Wahini from class 6. Here I will explain these 3 ideas choosing a descriptive statistic test. Descriptive statistic. Number 1, central tendency, mean, median, mode. Number 2, variability, variance, standard deviation, range. Number 3, relative standing, z-score, percentile range. So the next, there are 5 inferential statistics. Number 1, the test. Number 2, analysis of variance. Number 3, chi-square. Number 4, Pearson correlation. Number 5, multiply regression. So the next, conducting inferential analysis. Number 1, hypothesis testing, a procedure for making decisions about results by comparing an observed value of a sample with a population value to determine if no difference or relationship exists between the values. Number 2, confidence interval, the range of upper and lower statistical values that is confidence with observed data and is likely to contain the actual population mean. Jadi, conducting inferential analysis itu melakukan analisis inferensial. Dan pada saat melakukan analisis inferensial ada 3 hal yang perlu dilakukan. Yang pertama, pengajuan hipotesis, prosedur untuk membuat keputusan tentang hasil dengan membandingkan nilai sampel yang diamati dengan nilai populasi untuk menentukan apakah tidak ada perbedaan atau hubungan antara nilai-nilai tersebut. Yang kedua, interval keyakinan, rentang nilai statistik atas dan bawah yang konsisten dengan data yang diamati dan kemungkinan berisi rata-rata populasi aktual yang. Okay, so the next, number 3, effect size, a means for identifying the practical strength of the conclusion about group differences or about the relationship among variables. Ukuran efek, cara untuk mengidentifikasi kekuatan praktis dari kesimpulan tentang perbedaan kelompok atau tentang hubungan antara variabel. So the next, there are 5 conducting hypothesis tests. Number 1, identify a null and alternative hypothesis. Number 2, set the level of significance, alpha level, for rejecting the null hypothesis. Number 3, count the data. Number 4, compute the sample statistic. Number 5, make decisions about rejecting or failing to reject the hypothesis. Ada 5 bagian saat melakukan uji hipotesis. Yang pertama, identifikasi hipotesis nol dan alternatif. Yang kedua, tetapkan tingkat signifikansi tingkat alfa untuk menolak hipotesis nol. Yang ketiga, kumpulkan datanya. Yang keempat, hitung statistik sampel. Yang kelima, buat keputusan untuk menolak atau gagal menolak hipotesis. So the next, there are 7 selecting and approving statistics. Number 1, determine the type of quantitative research questions or hypothesis you want to analyze, e.g. compare or relate. Number 2, identify the number of independent variables. Number 3, identify the number of dependent variables. Number 4, identify whether covariates and the number of covariates of used in the research questions or hypothesis. So the next, number 5, consider the scale of measurement for your independence variable in the research questions or hypothesis. Number 6, identify the scale of measurement for the dependence variables, e.g. continuous or categorical. Number 7, determine if the distribution of the scores is normal or skewed. Memilih statistik yang tepat. Yang pertama, tentukan jenis pertanyaan penelitian kuantitatif atau hipotesis yang ingin Anda analisis, misal bandingkan atau hubungkan. Yang kedua, identifikasi jumlah variabel independen. Yang ketiga, identifikasi jumlah variabel dependen. Yang keempat, identifikasi apakah kovariat dan jumlah kovariat digunakan dalam pertanyaan penelitian atau hipotesis. Yang kelima, pertimbangkan skala pengukuran untuk variabel independen Anda dan pertanyaan penelitian atau hipotesis. Yang keenam, tentukan skala pengukuran untuk variabel dependen, misalnya continue atau kategoris. Yang ketujuh, tentukan apakah distribusi skala normal atau miring. Oke, thank you.